Okay, hi everyone, welcome back, and in this update we are going to check out Polygon's price chart and see what is happening in the short term, and I'm going to tell you, despite the recent move on the downside, why am I right now buying Polygon big time, and at the same time, if we end up going maybe even a bit lower, I'm just going to buy more and more and more. Basically, I actually believe that the market will get this one wrong, and in the short term, I don't really believe that the price of Polygon at least should be right around, let's say, 10-13 cents area. I think we all deserve some much higher prices. But before we get into all that, at first we are going to talk about some fantastic news about Polygon, and in case you're not really active on social media, you should know that this is essentially actually one of the biggest announcements Polygon has had in a long time, and it's Mastercard choosing Polygon to power verified user transactions for self-custody wallet. And this isn't just another partnership, okay? It's not really as simple as that. This, in my view, is a direct move toward real payments on blockchain, and Polygon is the network that got the deal in here. So we are going to break all this down and see what this actually means, why Mastercard picked Polygon, and how this connects to a stablecoin's volume and long-term adoption. Are you ready? Let's dive in and see what is going on. And first things first, I think we have to answer a very important question. Why this deal actually matters for Polygon and payments. You see, the biggest detail in here is actually why Mastercard select Polygon. They didn't really choose Polygon for hype. Well, let's just actually say they didn't choose Polygon for the lack of hype. They didn't really choose Polygon because they just simply liked it. No, they chose Polygon because the tech actually here works reliably on the real financial load. You see, when a company as big as Mastercard touches blockchain, they need four very important things. Number one is going to be no downtime. Number two, predictable fees. Number three, almost instant settlement. And number four, zero risk of reorgs. And Polygon recently actually upgraded a big part of its architecture, and it essentially means that you are right now going to have near instant finality. And in simple terms, let's just say it like this: when you tap your card at a store, the terminal confirms almost instantly. Polygon is also now able to behave the same way, very much fast, final, and absolutely safe. Also, the network right now is scaling towards more and more transactions per second, which is actually very important for anything that wants to handle real consumer volume. And for Mastercard, well, this is actually the only type of chain that makes sense for them, because they needed a blockchain that behaves like global payments infrastructure, not a chain that blows up when activity increases, and they are going to have some insane gas fees. And guess what? Polygon literally checked every single box in here. That's why they chose Polygon to partner with. Point number two. You see, at the moment, it's very important to understand that stablecoins actually are quietly becoming the biggest use case in the crypto market, and people use stablecoins because they act like dollars. But here's the deal: they actually move globally in seconds and cost almost nothing. And the problem has always been the UX, meaning most people are not really comfortable sending money to a long random stream of address. No, if they're gonna make one typo, which is actually common for a lot of people that are not really familiar with the crypto market, well, their money is just going to disappear instantly. And I think we can all agree that's not really ideal. And that is what Mastercard and Polygon are fixing in here. You see, this update actually lets users send stablecoins to simple usernames, something like, for example, let's say John.Polygon. So when you make it much easier for users to be able to transact, even for those users who are not really familiar and don't even care about the blockchain space, well, naturally you are going to have an increase in adoption. And for stablecoins, this is actually kind of a big deal because, number one, this is removing friction. Number two, this is removing fear of sending a lot of money to the wrong address. And number three, this actually makes on-chain dollars usable for normal people. So This, in my view, actually turns Polygon into a stablecoin payment highway, not just a network for swaps and NFTs. Remittances, merchant payments, payroll, creator payouts, all of these things could become much easier once the UX is simple. And let's be honest, we all really needed this to happen. Now, another angle that in my view, it's definitely worth paying attention to comes down to volume. You see, in blockchain, volume is basically everything, because chains that get actually volume, they do survive over a long period of time, and chains that don't, well, unfortunately, they tend to fade out. And this Mastercard rollout brings real sticky transaction activity, because number one, users get verified once, number two, they receive a permanent alias, and number three, that alias is tied to Polygon's infrastructure. Okay, it's very important to understand that once somebody is set up, they are not going to switch to another chain just because it is like cheaper. Absolutely not. I don't really think that's gonna happen, and that's because their identity is already tied to Polygon. Okay, again, it's very important to understand that. Basically, every single time somebody sends a stablecoin using this alias system, they will pay a tiny gas fee in Polygon, and it's not much, I fully understand, but millions and millions of transactions do sort of kind of create a meaningful revenue for validators, stakers, and the network itself. And there is another big shift. The system now works for self-custody wallets, not just centralized exchanges, and MetaMask, Phantom, Coinbase Wallet, all of these can plug into the system. And that, in my view, means far more individual users, much more movements of stablecoins, and a much higher baseline of volume. So in conclusion, I know right now the prices are way down, but I don't really believe that this is going to remain this way for a long period of time. In my view, this announcement is actually a major step toward making self-custody wallets feeling as simple as normal finance applications. And because of this, I do think that Polygon is just going to attract more and more adoption, add more and more volume to the chain, which is what we love to see. Okay, it is all, in my view, about stable coins and mainly volume. So overall, definitely positive news in here, and we do need to check out these positive news. And trust me, you are going to, from this point moving forward, hear more and more about Polygon from me, because I do think that we are actually at like really good prices. So again, overall positive news. Do not let the short-term price action fool you into believing that Polygon is absolutely worthless. They are actually fully, in my view, on the right direction. Now, having said all that, let's go on the live chart and see what is happening in the short term. And as you can see, the last time that we talked about Polygon, let's just do this, okay? We were right in here, and the idea was that, well, okay, this can be a 1, 2, 3, 4, but we have to be a bit more patient and see at least another move on the upside into our wave 5 in order for us to maybe be a bit optimistic and call this point our final low. And we specifically said, under any kind of circumstances, we do not want to see a move down in Polygon from here in order to take these lows, because that is essentially going to confirm, yep, as opposed to an impulse indicating the bottom SM, we're just having a correction structure on the upside. And now I believe it is very much safe to say that, yes, unfortunately, this was just an ABC zigzag and the bottom was not in, and we just continued our move on the downside in Polygon. And I'm not really sure if in like very short term in this area, I have good news for you. Why is that? You see, if you want to argue that we're going to have our final low around here, maybe this is like a very important support, then okay. Off of the lowest low, you have to be able to find a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And one very important characteristic of a 5 wave in form of an impulse is being quite strong and sharp. However, if I just go on the live chart, what do you see in here? I think we can all agree this is kind of a slow and choppy move on the upside. Let's just measure it real quick timing wise. This move so far is taking us about 150 candlesticks on 30-minute time frame. On the other hand, in only about, let's say, even 50 candles, we managed to have this a strong move down. So I think this clearly suggests that right now at least bears probably do have the upper hand and bulls may not necessarily be in control, indicating what? Yep, we are probably having in this area a bit of a correction structure, and maybe even we are going to have another move on the upside. And at that point, I'm gonna say maybe this is gonna be like a WXY in form of a double zigzag, but then I actually do not mind if I see another move down in Polygon. Is that going to be such a bad time? I'll be honest with you, not really. And from my POV, again, you can have a different opinion. I absolutely respect yours, but from my POV, any type of move down in Polygon for me is just going to be more and more buying opportunity. Okay, when we were around these prices about, let's say, 30-40 cents, I wasn't necessarily big on Polygon, but now that we got such a massive discount, I am now a big fan of what Polygon is doing. And also based on the recent fundamental news, I think we can all agree that Polygon overall is on the right direction. So I'm just gonna say this, I think the market is getting this thing wrong, and any kind of move down is probably from this point moving forward not really going to be sustainable, meaning these prices from my POV fundamental wise are actually decent buying opportunities. That's why around the lows I am just slowly but surely accumulating Polygon in hope that we end up having a magnificent move on the upside, and I do think that we are going to have that. And I hope I explained everything well and you understood what is going on in Polygon's price chart. Anyway, if you found any value in my content, I would really appreciate if you like this video and consider subscribing to my channel and follow me on Twitter. And if you want more, maybe you want like a complete analysis for your own specific crypto, you can become a member of my main channel and ask me anything you want. And until the next update, I hope you have a wonderful time. Goodbye.